I never expected an invitation from Charlotte to shake my world. When the envelope arrived, it felt like a message from another life. Dinner at our place. Don't say no, it read. I stared at the words, feeling a mix of guilt and excitement. Mark, my husband, was engrossed in his usual routine, completely unaware of the turmoil brewing inside me. I felt trapped. Trapped in a marriage that had become a monotonous cycle of work, dinner, and sleep. "Are you going to your sister's?" Mark asked, glancing up from the TV. His voice was distant, like he was asking about the weather. I nodded, forcing a smile. "Yeah, just for a few hours." As I prepared for the evening, I wondered what Charlotte had planned. I slipped into a simple dress, one I used to love but now felt foreign against my skin. Did I still know how to enjoy myself? I shook off the thought, reminding myself that I was just going to dinner. Just dinner. When I arrived at Charlotte's home, the warm glow from the lights welcomed me. The familiar scent of her cooking filled the air. "You made it." Charlotte beamed, pulling me into a hug. Her joy felt like a stark contrast to my own feelings of discontent. Then Tyler stepped into the room. He was Charlotte's husband, tall and confident, with an easy smile that could light up the darkest corners of my heart. "Hey there," he said, his eyes sparkling with mischief. I felt a strange flutter in my stomach. Why? I barely knew him beyond the polite exchanges at family gatherings. Dinner began, and the table was filled with laughter and clinking glasses. But as I sat there, the connection I shared with Tyler grew stronger. His gaze lingered on me longer than it should have, and every time our eyes met, I felt a spark. "So, what have you been up to?" he asked, leaning closer, his voice low and inviting. "Oh, you know, the usual," I replied, trying to sound casual. But his interest felt different. It was genuine. I caught myself stealing glances at him, my heart racing with each shared laugh and playful comment. What was happening to me? Was I really developing feelings for my sister's husband? "Your dress is lovely," Tyler said, his voice smooth like honey. My cheeks flushed at the compliment. "It really suits you." I could feel the weight of Charlotte's presence fading away as our conversation flowed effortlessly between us. As the evening wore on, I sensed a shift in the air. It was electric, charged with unspoken words and hidden desires. I was caught in a web of emotions I had long buried. Mark and I hadn't shared a moment like this in years. I glanced at Charlotte, who was busy chatting with another guest, blissfully unaware of the tension mounting beside her. Then it happened. Tyler brushed against my arm while reaching for the bread basket. The contact sent a jolt through me, igniting a whirlwind of emotions I thought I had buried deep. I pulled back slightly, surprised by my own reaction. "Sorry about that," he said, but his eyes told me he felt the moment too. "It's fine," I managed to reply, my heart racing. How could I feel this way? Was it wrong to be attracted to him? I shook my head, trying to dismiss the thought, but it lingered, challenging my sense of loyalty to Charlotte and Mark. "Are you all right?" Tyler asked, concern etched on his face. "You look a bit pale." I forced a laugh, feeling the heat rise to my cheeks. "Just a little overwhelmed, I suppose." As the night drew to a close, I felt a strange mix of excitement and dread. What was I getting into? I had come for dinner, yet I was leaving with a storm brewing inside me. I could not shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of something I could not control. I stepped outside into the cool night air, my mind racing with questions. What did this attraction mean? And could I really allow myself to feel this way? After Charlotte left to tend to her children, the kitchen felt suddenly quiet. It was just Tyler and me, and the air was thick with unspoken desire. The clatter of dishes and laughter from the dining room faded away, leaving us in an intimate moment that felt both thrilling and terrifying. "Can I help you with anything?" I asked, trying to sound casual as I leaned against the counter. My heart raced as Tyler moved closer, his presence overwhelming. "Actually, I could use a hand with these dishes," he said, grinning as he gathered plates. "But I can't guarantee I won't distract you." I laughed nervously, unsure if he was joking. "Well, I guess that would make it more fun," I replied, trying to match his playful tone. As we washed the dishes together, I felt a magnetic pull toward him, a force I couldn't explain. "You know," he began, glancing at me with those captivating eyes, "I've always thought you were incredibly interesting. I mean, every time we have family gatherings, I find myself wanting to talk to you more." I turned my head quickly, surprised by his words. "Really?" "I had no idea," I admitted, feeling my cheeks heat up. Was he just being polite, or did he really mean it? "Yeah," he continued, leaning closer as he rinsed off a plate. "It's hard not to notice how vibrant you are, even when you seem, well, a little distant sometimes." His voice was soft, but the weight of his words hung in the air between us. I swallowed hard, grappling with the tension rising within me. Did he see through my carefully constructed facade? "I guess I've been a bit lost lately," I confessed, my voice barely above a whisper. "Life can feel monotonous." "Monotonous," he echoed, his brow furrowing. "You deserve more than that. You should feel alive, not stuck." His eyes locked onto mine, and I could feel my heart racing. I wanted to argue, to defend my life with Mark, but the truth was, I didn't want to be stuck anymore. "You make it sound so easy," I said, trying to lighten the mood. "What do you suggest I do? Start a revolution?" Tyler chuckled, the sound warm and inviting. "Maybe just start with small changes. It's about taking steps, you know? Finding moments that spark joy." His gaze lingered, and I could feel the chemistry growing between us, a dangerous thrill that made my head spin. As we finished the dishes, an electric silence fell over us. I could feel his breath against my skin, and it took all my strength not to lean into him. My mind raced with thoughts of loyalty to Charlotte and the life I had built with Mark. Yet, the pull toward Tyler was undeniable. "Do you ever think about what could have been?" Tyler asked suddenly, breaking the spell. "If things were different, I mean." "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Just, what if we hadn't ended up with the people we did? Would we have been different?" His question hung in the air, heavy with possibility. I stared at him, my heart pounding. "I don't know," I replied honestly. "Sometimes I wonder if I chose the right path." "Maybe it's not too late to explore other paths," he suggested, his voice low and enticing. "You deserve to feel desired, to feel alive." His words sent a shiver down my spine. I wanted to tell him how I felt, to admit that I was drawn to him in a way I couldn't ignore. But guilt gnawed at my insides. "What about Charlotte?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Tyler sighed, running a hand through his hair. "That's the dilemma, isn't it? But what if it's not just about her? What about your happiness?" I took a step back, my heart racing. The truth was, I was terrified. The thought of betraying my sister filled me with dread, yet the thrill of Tyler's presence was intoxicating. "I can't just forget my loyalty," I said, my voice shaking. "I'm not asking you to forget," he replied, his gaze steady. "I'm just asking you to think about what you truly want." In that moment, I realized how pivotal this conversation was. My decision here could alter the course of my life forever. I felt like I was standing at a crossroads, with one path leading to the familiar but unfulfilling life with Mark, and the other to the unknown, filled with excitement and danger. As the tension hung between us, I knew I had to choose. But the weight of the decision felt heavier than anything I'd faced before. Would I dare to step into the light of desire, or would I retreat into the shadows of loyalty? The days that followed our kitchen encounter felt like a blur, each moment stretching into the next, filled with a mix of excitement and dread. Tyler and I began to meet in secret, our encounters cloaked in the thrill of the forbidden. I could hardly believe I was doing this, yet every time we met, the world around me faded away, leaving just the two of us and an undeniable chemistry that pulled me closer to him. Our first secret meeting was at a small cafe downtown. The place was cozy, with soft music playing in the background and the aroma of freshly brewed coffee filling the air. I sat at a corner table, my heart racing as I waited for him. When he finally walked in, a smile spread across my face, and for a moment, all my worries melted away. "Sorry I'm late," Tyler said, sliding into the seat across from me. I had to make sure no one saw me leave. "It's okay," I replied, trying to sound casual. But inside, I was a bundle of nerves. I was just thinking. "About what?" he asked, leaning forward, his eyes sparkling with curiosity. "About how wrong this feels," I admitted, biting my lip. "Charlotte and Mark, they don't deserve this." "Maybe," he said, his voice low. "But what about you? Don't you think you deserve to feel alive? To be happy?" His words struck a chord within me. I wanted to tell him how alive I felt around him, how every laugh felt like a jolt of electricity. But guilt tugged at my heart. I don't know how to balance this," I confessed. "I feel like I'm betraying everyone I care about." Tyler reached across the table, his hand brushing against mine. "You're not betraying them if you're seeking what you need. It's human to want more." His touch sent a shiver down my spine. I wanted to pull away, to remind him of my loyalty, but I found myself lost in his gaze. "What if they find out?" I whispered, my voice trembling. "Then we deal with it," he replied, his expression steady. "But right now, let's just enjoy this moment." And we did. We talked and laughed, sharing stories and dreams that felt so far removed from my everyday life. Every word exchanged deepened the connection between us, and while a part of me felt guilty, another part felt free for the first time in years. As our meetings continued, I found myself reflecting on my feelings for Tyler. I felt alive and excited, yet every rush of joy was tainted with guilt. I had never imagined I could feel this way about someone else. Yet, every time I closed my eyes, I could see Charlotte's smile, hear her laugh, and it made my chest ache. One evening, after a particularly passionate meeting, I stood in front of the bathroom mirror, staring at my reflection. I looked different, more vibrant, but also more lost. My heart raced as I thought about what I was doing. I was living a double life, and the weight of that reality was becoming heavier. Then, as if fate had a hand in my turmoil, I overheard Charlotte talking on the phone one night. I had come home late after meeting Tyler, and she was in the living room, her voice soft and warm. "I just love how Mark always knows how to make me laugh," she said. "He truly is my rock." My heart dropped. The sincerity in her voice pierced through my defenses, and I felt a wave of remorse crash over me. I was betraying not just Mark, but my sister, the one person I had always wanted to protect. I realized that my actions were not just about me, they were intertwined with the lives of those I cared about. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. How could I continue to explore this connection with Tyler when it was costing me so much? In the quiet of my room that night, I lay awake, grappling with the reality of my choices. I felt like I was standing at a precipice, staring into the abyss of my desires while the voices of loyalty and love echoed in my mind. I had to make a choice, and it felt like the weight of the world rested on my shoulders. Would I dare to continue this affair, to embrace the thrill that Tyler brought into my life? Or would I retreat back into the shadows, holding on to the bonds I had with my sister and husband? As sleep eluded me, I realized I was at a crossroads, and whatever path I chose would alter my life in ways I could never predict. The moment I stepped into the cafe for our next meeting, my heart raced with a mix of anticipation and fear. Tyler was already seated at our usual corner table, a warm smile lighting up his face as I approached. But today felt different, a heaviness hung in the air, and I could sense that something was about to change. "Hey, you made it," he said, standing up to pull out my chair. I was starting to worry. "Sorry, I had a lot on my mind," I replied, trying to sound lighthearted, but my voice betrayed me. I could feel the weight of my decisions pressing down on me. As we settled in, he leaned closer, his eyes searching mine. "What's bothering you? You seem distant." I took a deep breath. I can't shake this feeling of guilt. It feels wrong to keep seeing you like this." Tyler's expression softened, and he reached out to touch my hand. "I know it's complicated. But you deserve to be happy. I want you to know that I'm falling for you." His words hit me like a bolt of lightning. I froze, my heart racing as I processed what he had just said. "Falling for me?" I echoed, my voice barely above a whisper. "What does that even mean?" "It means I care about you," he said, his voice steady. "I want to be more than just a secret. I know this is all so sudden, but I can't help how I feel." I felt a whirlwind of emotions inside me, excitement, fear, and a deep sense of confusion. "Tyler, I don't know if I can do this." "What about Charlotte? What about Mark?" "I'm not asking you to throw your life away," he replied, his tone earnest. "But think about how you feel when you're with me. It's real, isn't it?" I looked down at our hands, his warmth contrasting with the coldness of my thoughts. "It is real. But it's also messy and complicated. I can't just ignore my entire life." "Maybe you don't have to," Tyler said, leaning in closer. "You can choose your happiness. You have to think about what you really want." His words resonated in me, but they also terrified me. I thought about my life with Mark, our shared dreams, our history. Yet, in my heart, I felt a growing connection with Tyler that I couldn't deny. "I just don't know if I can be the reason someone gets hurt," I confessed, my voice trembling. "Isn't it worse to live a life that doesn't make you happy?" Tyler asked, his gaze unwavering. "You deserve to feel alive. You deserve to love and be loved." I wanted to believe him. The moments we shared felt electric, but I was haunted by the thought of betraying my sister and my husband. "What if Charlotte finds out?" I whispered, my heart pounding. "What if Mark senses something is wrong?" "Then we deal with it," he replied, his expression resolute. "But right now, focus on us. Focus on what you feel." I closed my eyes, trying to block out the noise in my mind. My thoughts drifted back to Charlotte's laughter and Mark's comforting presence. I felt torn, my heart caught in a tug-of-war between desire and loyalty. "Tyler, I need time to think," I finally said, pulling my hand away. "I can't make this decision right now." He nodded, his expression softening. "I understand. Just know that I'm here, and I care about you. Whenever you're ready, I'll be waiting." As I left the cafe, I felt a mix of relief and regret. The weight of my choices pressed heavily on my shoulders. I was standing at the edge of a cliff, looking down at the uncertain path below. In the days that followed, I couldn't shake Tyler's confession from my mind. I replayed our conversation over and over, each time feeling more trapped in a web of desire and loyalty. My heart longed for the thrill of what could be with Tyler, yet I felt the chains of my commitments pulling me back. At night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering what my next move would be. Would I dare to embrace the feelings that Tyler had awakened in me, or would I retreat into the safety of my old life, leaving behind the possibility of a new beginning? The clock ticked on, and I knew I had to make a choice. The days that followed my last meeting with Tyler felt like a foggy maze. Each morning, I woke up with a knot in my stomach, knowing I was living a lie. I tried to shake off the feeling, but it clung to me like a shadow. Mark noticed. I could tell by the way he looked at me during breakfast, his brow furrowed in concern. "Is everything okay?" he asked one morning, his voice low and steady as he poured himself another cup of coffee. "You seem off lately." I forced a smile, trying to convince myself as much as him. "I'm just tired, that's all. Work has been busy." Mark nodded, but I could see doubt in his eyes. "If something is wrong, you can talk to me, you know that, right?" I wanted to scream, to tell him about the whirlwind of emotions inside me, but I kept quiet. Instead, I just nodded and pushed my eggs around on my plate. The guilt was suffocating. Later that evening, I found myself in a crowded cafe again, but this time, it was with Mark. We were supposed to go out for a casual dinner, but I felt the weight of my secrets growing heavier with each passing minute. When I caught a glimpse of Tyler across the room, a mix of anxiety and longing washed over me. "Are you even listening?" Mark's voice broke through my thoughts. "What?" I blinked, focusing on his concerned face. I said, "You've been really distant lately." "It's like you're somewhere else," he said, concern etched on his features. "I'm sorry, Mark. I'm just preoccupied," he finished for me. "What's going on? You can talk to me." In that moment, I felt trapped. "I just have a lot on my mind," I admitted, swallowing hard. "It's nothing you need to worry about." Mark studied me for a moment, then sighed. "Okay, but I'm here if you need me." I nodded, grateful for his support, but my heart ached. I was lying to the one person who loved me unconditionally. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying Tyler's words in my head. "You deserve to be happy," he had said. But at what cost? I couldn't shake the thought of my sister Charlotte, her laughter echoing in my mind. I felt like a puppet, pulled between the strings of my desires and the loyalty I owed to my family. The next day, I received a text from Tyler, "Can we meet? I need to talk." My heart raced at his words. I knew I had to face him, but the thought made my stomach churn. I felt like I was heading towards a storm. When I arrived at the cafe, Tyler was already there, his expression serious. "Thanks for coming," he said, gesturing for me to sit. "What's going on?" I asked, my voice shaky. "I can't keep doing this," he said, running a hand through his hair. "I care about you too much to keep things the way they are." I took a deep breath. "But what about Charlotte? What about Mark?" He leaned closer, his voice softening. "I know it's hard. But you need to decide what you really want. You can't keep living in this limbo. It's hurting both of us." I felt tears prick at my eyes. I don't want to hurt anyone. I love my sister, and I don't want to betray her trust. But I also can't ignore how I feel about you. "Then let's figure this out together," he urged. "You deserve to be happy, even if it doesn't feel like it right now." The weight of his words hung in the air, and I felt a mix of desperation and fear. "I'm so scared, Tyler. What if I lose everything?" He reached for my hand, his touch sending a shiver down my spine. "You have to be brave. You can't let fear control your life. You owe it to yourself to explore this." I pulled my hand back, my heart racing. "I need time to think. I can't just decide everything right now." Tyler nodded, but his eyes showed disappointment. "I understand. Just know that my offer stands. I care about you, and I want you to be happy." As I left the cafe, my mind was a whirlwind of emotions. I felt like I was standing on a precipice, looking down into the unknown. I had to make a choice. But which path would lead to happiness, and which would tear my world apart? Back at home, I found Mark in the living room, engrossed in a book. He looked up and smiled, but all I could feel was the weight of my choices. I was caught between two worlds, and I was terrified of what would happen if I made the wrong decision. The days after my meeting with Tyler felt heavy, like I was carrying a weight on my shoulders that would not lift. Each morning, I woke up with the same knot in my stomach, a reminder of the choices I had made. Mark continued to notice my distance, his concerned glances becoming harder to ignore. "Are you sure everything is all right?" he asked one morning, his voice gentle yet probing as we sat at the breakfast table. The sunlight streamed in through the window, illuminating the unease between us. I looked down at my plate, pushing my toast around aimlessly. "I'm just a bit stressed from work," I replied, my voice lacking conviction. Mark frowned but nodded, seemingly willing to accept my excuse. If you need to talk, I'm here for you. You know that, right? The truth hung in the air, unspoken and heavy. I wanted to tell him everything, the confusion, the guilt, the longing, but the words stuck in my throat. Instead, I forced a smile, knowing it would not reach my eyes. Thanks, Mark. I appreciate it. Later that day, I found myself sitting alone in the living room, the silence amplifying my thoughts. I grabbed my phone, my fingers hovering over the screen as I debated reaching out to Charlotte. I needed to apologize, to explain that I had strayed into dangerous territory. But the fear of losing her made me hesitate. After a long internal battle, I finally typed a message. Hey Charlotte, can we talk? I need to explain some things. My heart raced as I hit send, knowing that honesty was my only path forward. To my surprise, she replied almost instantly. Of course. I'll come by tonight. As the hours dragged on, I felt a mix of anxiety and relief. I knew I had to face my sister, to admit my wrongs. When she arrived, I could see the warmth in her smile, but it felt like a reminder of the distance I had created. Hey, sis. It's been a while since we had a proper chat, Charlotte said as she entered. She hugged me tightly, and for a moment, I felt the love of family wrap around me. But guilt gnawed at my insides. Yeah, it really has, I replied, forcing my voice to sound light. I've been busy. She looked at me, her eyes searching. Busy with what? You seem different. Is everything okay? I took a deep breath, my heart pounding. Actually, I need to talk to you about something important. The smile faded from her face, replaced by concern. What is it? I led her to the couch, my stomach twisting. I've made some mistakes, Charlotte. I've been unfaithful. The silence that followed felt deafening. Charlotte's eyes widened in shock, her mouth slightly agape. What do you mean? With who? I hesitated, the weight of my confession pressing down on me. It's with Tyler. I didn't mean for it to happen, but it did. Her expression shifted from shock to hurt, and I felt like the worst sister in the world. How could you do this to me? She asked, her voice trembling. I know, I said, tears welling in my eyes. I'm so sorry. I didn't want to hurt you. I got lost in my own feelings, and I didn't think of the consequences. Charlotte shook her head, her disappointment evident. You need to talk to him. You have to figure out what you really want. I know, I whispered. But I also want to fix what's broken between us. We sat in silence, the weight of my confession hanging between us. I felt raw and exposed, but I also felt a small spark of hope. I want to rebuild our relationship, Charlotte, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I miss you. She sighed, the anger slowly fading from her eyes. It will take time, but I want that too. Just know that trust is hard to regain. I understand, I replied, my heart heavy with regret. I'll do whatever it takes to make things right. As we talked, I felt the walls between us begin to crumble, even if just a little. It was a start, a step towards redemption. I knew I had to face Mark as well, to address the issues that had led me down this path. Later that night, I sat down with Mark, the gravity of our conversation weighing heavily on my heart. Mark, we need to talk, I said, my voice trembling as I looked him in the eye. He set his book aside, concern etching his features. What is it? You look serious. I've been doing a lot of thinking about us, I began, my heart racing. And I want to be honest about where we stand. As I spoke, I felt the shadows of my past decisions begin to lift. I realized that true love must be built on honesty, trust, and respect. It would take time, but I was ready to confront my own shadows. With every word, I felt a sense of relief, knowing that I was on the path to redemption. Share this story if you believe that love can overcome even the toughest challenges. Leave a comment about how an unexpected visit has changed your life, and subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories like this one.